It was announced a little bit ago that Sadie Sink would be joining the MCU in the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day. And people got really excited because she is clearly one of the standouts from the Stranger Things cast, which is even more impressive considering she was not one of the original kids. If you don't know or remember, she was introduced in season two, and she had a lot to kind of like play catch up on because Stranger Things was a hit from the get go. So, um, there's a lot of pressure from her, but now she's become a lot of people's favorite character. And I'm interested to see what she does in the MCU because I loved her in The Whale as well with Brendan Fraser. And I'm very interested in that. However, this video today comes from my wife, actually. So shout out to her for the suggestion. But I want to be talking about people's theories about who she's going to be playing. Because if you don't know, Sadie Sink in the new Spider-Man movie has spawned a lot of theories for who she could be. And there's a lot of fun ones. So I'm going to talk about most of the main ones that I've seen, and then we'll get into what I think is going to be the actual person she's playing. First and foremost, I want to start out, or first, I guess I'll just start out with Mayday Parker. Some people think she's playing Mayday Parker, and if you don't know who that is, Mayday Parker is also known as Spider Girl or Spider Woman, depending on which version or which thing you're reading. But it's a Marvel Comics superheroine from the MC2 universe, and she's the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. And she takes over as Spider-Man after Peter is injured. Mayday has superhuman strength and reflexes. She can stick to walls and has a spider sense that warns her of danger. She also uses specialized webbing that can repel objects she's stuck to, turning them into projectiles. Mayday Parker is a very interesting one because you've probably seen her in the recent Into the Spider-Verse film. And obviously in that movie, she is a baby. So most people, when they hear Mayday Parker, they think, okay, that's really odd. But she does have red hair in that movie. And obviously, we'll get into this part, but, hair color can be changed. But I think Mayday Parker is a fun option, mainly because people are saying it would be Toby's version of Spider-Man, his daughter. So that would be very interesting. I don't know if I fully love that, though. I'm not sure if I'm fully on board because I feel like we just did the multiverse stuff with him. And as much as I do love Toby, I like to save him for Secret Wars if we can, or Doomsday, and just let Tom kind of have his movie. I mean, I know there's going to be other people in this movie, obviously, but maybe not something as, super crazy cosmic as, a multiverse Spider-Man daughter of a Spider-Man variant, I think that would just be a little bit much for this movie, but I will say, of all people to play Mayday Parker, I think Sadie Sink would be an awesome choice, especially if she's, the kid of Toby and Kirsten Dunst. I mean, that's kind of like perfect casting, not gonna lie. Now, next up, we're going outside of the realm of Spider-Man per se, into the realm of Jean Grey. Jean Grey is a character appearing in the X-Men comics, and she was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And she first appeared in X-Men #1. And if you don't know, Jean Grey is a pretty OP character. She is I mean, some people say that she's one of, if not the strongest in Marvel, definitely on the X-Men team. And she has appeared in a lot of movies already, from, the original three X-Men, X-Men Apocalypse, Days of Future Past, Wolverine, Dark Phoenix. I mean, basically every X-Men movie so far, she has appeared in. And this is another interesting choice because this would set up so much. I mean, number one, it would mean that the X-Men are for sure like in the MCU, and what I mean by that is like the new X-Men are in the MCU, because this would clearly be a reboot considering, like I said, we've had versions of Jean Grey, but also this would be a younger version of that character. So it would just be interesting to see how they do it. Although I will say I'm not a fan of this one only because, um, I want the X-Men. It's like the Fantastic Four. I want the X-Men to be taken serious. I want it to be done right. I want them to take their time with it. So yes, as much as I want the X-Men in the MCU, and as much as I would love to see Sadie Sink play a like very young Jean Grey, which I think is literally perfect. She can handle that range of like, you know, being like a normal female character and then going full cosmic goddess. I think she can handle that, but I do want all of the like I want the X-Men as a bundle, if that makes sense. I don't want to see one introduced here and then have another one introduced and have them be a different version and then have them all be on the same team. I mean, I think that could be cool for something like an Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars, but if I'm doing X-Men in the MCU, I want a whole team fresh, introduced together, introduced in the same way. I want it to make sense. And I don't think the X-Men can make sense in the MCU until after Secret Wars. I think we can have the Fox X-Men for sure. And I think we're going to get that, obviously. But I think for the new and updated X-Men, that will have to wait until after Secret Wars, unfortunately. Now, moving on, I want to talk about Spider-Woman. Now, this is a little bit different than Mayday Parker. This is, I'm talking about Spider-Gwen here. And this is a little bit different than Gwen Stacy. And, I'll explain why. Because if you don't know, Spider-Gwen, also known as Spider-Woman, is a Marvel Comics superhero alternate version of Gwen Stacy. She was created by Robbie Rodriguez and Jason Latour, and she first appeared in Edge of the Spider-Verse #2 in 2014. And since then, she has exploded in popularity. If you don't know, she's been in the recent Into the Spider-Verse movies, played by or voiced by Haley Steinfeld. And her character has just become a very one of great interest for the fan base, for sure. And, she does have blonde hair, but again, I don't know if you guys know this, but hair dye exists. So they did it to Bryce Dallas Howard. I think they could do it to Sadie Sink. But I mean, either way, this is another fun one. However, again, I just feel like this is too much going on because it's like, here's your fourth Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. We're going, somewhat back to the street level roots. But also, here's a Spider-Woman character that we've never even hinted at, let alone introduced before. And we're just going to throw her at you. Like in this one, she has powers. Her name's Gwen Stacy. She's probably from a different Earth, if I had to guess. Like, I feel like it's just too much going on here, which is why I'm kind of against this one, per se. It's the same thing with, the other two I've already mentioned, where it's like, I just don't know. It's a fun one to think about and to try to picture Sadie Sink playing that character. But it's a different story when you actually think about the logistics of it and you're like, okay, yeah, maybe not. All right, next up I have one of my favorite picks for who she could be playing, and that is the iconic Mary Jane Watson. Now, some people have argued that, hey, we already have an MJ. We already have an MJ in the MCU. But if you don't remember, her name is Michelle Jones, and she's MJ, but she's not MJ, if that makes sense. And, I was, me personally, honestly, until this rumor and this casting came about, I was fine with Zendaya being MJ in the MCU. I really was. Even though her name was not Mary Jane Watson, and, she's not a redhead, I'm fine with that. Like, that didn't really bother me at all. And I think her chemistry with Peter is what's important. And obviously her and Tom Holland have that chemistry. So I see no harm, no foul. However, now that I hear Sadie Sink and Mary Jane Watson being tossed around in the same conversation, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of just perfect. I mean, Sadie Sink is old enough to, or young slash old enough to, where it would be believable, I think, for her to be a love interest for Tom Holland. For me, it would be a little bit weird, and I think for a lot of people, just because we know how young she truly is, and we saw her on Stranger Things in what felt like, a couple of years ago, but realistically, it was, probably 6 or 5 years ago, and she was just a kid. But, now she's obviously grown, and that's why I think her being in a relationship with Tom Holland in this movie wouldn't be too weird because they're both old enough. Not to mention she just has that MJ look. I could really see them going for that. Either it's so funny. I could either see them going for the '90s show look, the purple turtleneck, the yellow sweater, that kind of design for her hair and makeup. But I can more realistically see them going for the new Spider-Man show with new animated show with Neil Patrick Harris. I actually made a video on that, but I'll post a picture of what that MJ looks like here, and I could see her looking a lot more like that realistically. However, I just prefer a classic MJ look. Red hair, bangs, red lipstick, report not reporter, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the reporter. I go back and forth, but either way, I think Sadie Sink would be a good MJ. Now, my other top pick would be Gwen Stacy. As I mentioned, I've already talked about Spider-Gwen, but this is different because this would just be Gwen Stacy. Again, blonde hair, but you know what? Dye it. Same thing with Emma Stone and Bryce Dallas Howard. And speaking of, I love those versions of Gwen Stacy. Unlike MJ, I don't really like Kirsten Dunst's version of MJ, but I think Gwen Stacy has been treated very well in animation and live action. And I think Sadie Sink would be an awesome person to take up that mantle of Gwen, and you can keep it to where you have Zendaya as your MJ in the MCU, like I said, because I actually really like that for her, for that character. And then you could have Sadie Sink come in and play Gwen, and you can have her be a love interest that Peter meets in college. That could be really fun. And you can have him meet Harry while he's there too. Like, they could be friends. Instead of MJ, Harry, Peter, you could have MJ, Gwen, Gwen, Peter, Harry. And I think that's a lot of, fun stuff you could play with, especially with the whole, love triangle, or Peter trying to make MJ jealous without her knowing that she should be. I think it could be a lot of fun. And Sadie Sink has the range to play Gwen that it would require, because if you don't know, Gwen kind of goes through a lot in the comics, and I think it could be just really fun to see her play such a unique character. Now, the last pick I want to talk about, I'm kind of just tossing it in here because I don't really think it will happen, but that is Julia Carpenter. If you don't know, Julia Carpenter is referring to the Marvel Comics superhero created by Mike Zeck and Jim Shooter. She first appeared in Secret Wars #6, and she's gone by a lot of names like Spider-Woman, Arachne, and even Madam Web. In the comics, she gained spider-like powers and was tricked into taking a formula that gave her Spider-Man-like abilities. She had been a member of the West Coast Avengers and Freedom Force, and she's blonde or redhead depending on which version. She's kind of like a Spider-Woman figure, obviously. She also appeared in the Madam Web movie. If you guys haven't seen that, which, if you haven't, what are you doing with your life? But she was played by Sydney Sweeney in that. I thought it was, the costume looked cool. Not the 2 seconds it was on screen. But I'm just kind of throwing this in here just to mention it because I've seen it enough. I'm obviously not going to talk about every little obscure character people think that she could be playing, just because I don't think some of them are worth the time, to be quite honest. But I wanted to toss this one in because Julia Carpenter has become a much bigger character, and I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, honestly. So something to maybe keep an eye out for. But yeah, that's the ones that I have today. That's what I wanted to talk about. So let me know what you guys think down below. who do you think is most likely to, be the character Sadie Sink is going to be taken on in Spider-Man? Do you think it's going to be a really obscure one? And if so, who? If not, which one of the ones that I listed do you like the most? For me, I would have to say Gwen Stacy. I just feel like she has a more youthful part to her character than MJ does. But I'd be okay with anything. I'm just, like I said, I'm just happy to see Sadie Sink in the MCU, and especially in a Spider-Man movie. I mean, it's kind of like the best of both worlds, to be honest. So I'm pretty excited. Let me know what you think down below. And again, special shout out to my beautiful and loving wife for this amazing video suggestion. And until next time, I'll see you guys.